Today, we're going to be going over the three most common management styles that are out there. There are many more management styles, but these are the three basic ones that we're going to be going over. We're going to be going over authoritarian management style. We're going to be going over passive management style, and we're going to be going over example management style. So with that said, we're going to dive into it, and then we're going to get into authoritarian management. So we're going to start off by going over authoritarian management. We're going to be going over the pros and the cons of each, and we have 4 examples here. There are many more examples, of course, in this management style, but we're going to go over the 4 main ones. Let's go ahead and start off by the power of guidance on the pros. You're able to lead because you're using your power and your guidance. So you want to keep with that power and guidance, and that's what you use. Next, we're going to go over seniority leverage. You use your seniority as your leverage to accomplish tasks. And mainly, you usually do this by fear, because when you have seniority leverage, you can go ahead and use that power and your management stature to get things done. Next, we're going to be going over accomplishing tasks. You get things done and you get them done on time and fast. Next, we want to go over situational awareness. You're able to get yourself out of situations that are bad. So if you're put in a tough situation, you're able to use the knowledge of all this to get yourself out of that situation. Now let's go over some of the cons that are here. First off is rushed projects. This is crucial because even though you get things done, the project's rushed and it's not complete and it's usually launched with flaws. That's not necessarily a good thing. Next, high turnover. Because you use your seniority as leverage and your power, you are able to go ahead and have a high turnover rate because people don't necessarily want to work for that type of management. Which leads to the next one, low morale. With the high turnover rate and the rush projects, the team doesn't feel like they're together and you will create a situation of low morale. The last one is lack of teamwork. Because you're putting all your work onto your teammate, it doesn't feel like you're a team. It feels like they're getting a situation from the manager down and there is no teamwork, which creates all of that above. And that's the pros and cons of authoritarian management. Okay. Now we're going to be going over passive management. We're going to be going over the 4 pros and cons of passive management. And there are many other pros and cons of passive management, but we're going to be going over the 4 main ones. First one, you give sound advice. You always give the best advice that you know how to give. And that's usually never the greatest advice, never the lowest advice. You just give sound advice, and your team really likes that. On the second note, you're very friendly. You're able to relate to your team and you're usually the best friend of your team and your team usually loves that. They love you as a manager like that because they're your best friend. And that comes to relatable. You're relatable because you understand their situation, you understand where you're going, where they've been, and you understand where you want to go. Doesn't mean you're always going to get them there, but you are relatable. And the last one is reduced expense. This is an unfortunate cause of being a passive manager. You're usually going to do the job at a lesser amount of money because you're not demanding. Now let's go ahead and go over the cons. First con is lack of confidence. You can't exude confidence because you don't care enough. You're just being passive. You're just pushing around the time. The next one we're going to be going over is doing the bare minimum. You're never going to be the go-getter out there. You're just doing things to pass time. You don't know if this is the best job for you, so you just do the bare minimum. If you're asked to do a task, you do it, but it's usually on your time. And then that comes to this one. It takes you more time to accomplish tasks that are given to you because you don't care as much. And that's unfortunate because you should be caring about the situation a little bit more, but you're just doing the bare minimum to get by. And the last one, of course, is you're usually passed up for promotion. And that is the worst of all of these because you're going to see teammates fly right by you all the time. And that's an unfortunate cause of you not caring much. And this is the reality of it is people are going to pass you up. And that is the pros and cons of passive management. The last one we're going to be going over today is example management. We're going to be going over the 4 pros and the 4 cons of each of these. And of course, as you know, there are many more pros and cons to this type of management, but we're going to be going over the 4 main ones. So let's go ahead and dive into it. The first one is you lead by example when you're an example manager. You are the guy that they want to follow because you are leading with integrity and you are doing everything that you need to do and you are setting the example. The second one that we want to go over here is expectations are clear and clean. You are setting that tone and you've told your team exactly what you expect of them. You've set the concise consistency that you want from them, and you are trying to make sure that they are doing the best job that they can. The third one that we're going to be going over is creates thriving environments. Because you're leading by example and you're showing the team what you're doing, you are setting that thriving environment and everybody can roll and continue on moving forward. The last one, of course, is creating a culture based on work ethics. This is the most important one you can do when you are setting the example because you are being ethical as a manager. You're not jumping holes. You're not doing anything without ethics involved. You are showing that you are doing everything correctly. This is the harder part when it comes to this because the cons in this can be kind of scrutinized. But let's go ahead and start off by leadership can feel threatened because when you are doing everything correctly and you are moving along and setting the example, your leadership team can be threatened by your success. And that can always come with certain types of inclinations that is not always positive. The second one that we're going to be going over is it can come across as arrogant. Sometimes when you're setting the example and doing everything correctly, it comes across as cocky and arrogant. That's not always the way that you want to set the example. So you got to make sure you're putting yourself in check when you're in that mode. The next one we're going to be going over is passion can be mistaken as a vulnerability. Sometimes when you show a lot of passion, it comes across as somebody can take advantage of you. And you're using your emotions to show how much you care about everything. That can be misconstrued as a vulnerability, and that is a con of example management. The last one, of course, is doing most of the work. When you're setting the example, you're going to be doing all the work and most of the work because you're trying to show your team how to do that work. And sometimes that can feel a little bit overbearing. But these are the 4 pros and cons of example management.